Can we turn on the light? So, welcome back to the public program of the Architectural Association. This evening we have the pleasure of hosting Laura Kurgan, and who will give a lecture about the multiplication of dimensions of architecture from 10 to 100 dimensions of contemporary architecture. Laura Kurgan is an architect, urbanist, author, public intellectual based in New York, where she runs the Spatial Information Design Lab at the School of Architecture, Preservation and Planning at Columbia. Laura is an inspiration for many people who deal with the contemporary extension of architecture and its domains. And her work spans from the very small and enclosed spaces of prisons to the large databases that govern those prisons. And the role of data and violence is always coming up in her multiple works. She has presented her work at the Architectural Biennale, at the ZKM in Karlsruhe, and in many other venues. Her work is part of the collection of the Museum for Modern Art in New York. The attention to the minute works of information in shaping contemporary life is what characterizes her architecture, and what characterizes also her research. And the distinction between her architecture and her research is subtle, and so I think that it would be lovely if we just welcome Laura warmly, and if you also could switch off your mobile for her talk.
Okay, so thank you so much, John. And can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Yeah. And I'm extremely happy to be here. For some reason, I've never given a lecture at the AA. I've sort of been around the building, but I've never talked here. So it's great to be here in this room. And so what I'm going to do today is take you through a trajectory of the work that I've done, mostly because I've just finished a book, and so in some cases that work is bracketed off as in a book, but so some of you might not have read it, so so I thought it would be good to just introduce you to the work, and also to take you from there to what I'm doing now. And there really are a lot of projects going on in the lab, and also research-oriented projects that I'm doing at Columbia in a very interdisciplinary way. So I'll explain the topic of the lecture as we move through it, because you'll see how the idea unfolds. So a lot of the work that I've done, when you see it as part of the book, it was done prior to my work at Columbia. And since I've been at Columbia since 2004, I've been doing most of my work through the Spatial Information Design Lab, where we have a big team of people, and those people will be credited as the lecture goes along. So to start with the book, if it's called Close Up at a Distance, Mapping Technology and Politics. And in some ways, it's a prehistory of Google Maps as I was writing the book. Of course, as soon as the book got printed, Mapbox appeared on the scene. Does anybody know what Mapbox is in this auditorium? Maybe one or two. Okay, you should all look it up. It's actually an open source mapping program that's in competition in some ways with Google Earth, although Google Earth is in some ways in competition with Esri, which is another mapping platform. But Mapbox is open source, And it's also in its background, instead of Google Maps, it has OpenStreetMaps, which is crowdsourced by a lot of people around the world in a very rigorous way. So it's a prehistory of Google Earth in that, you know, most people in this audience don't know that maybe 15 years ago, the satellite imagery that's in the